Hello and a warm welcome to another edition of the Irish Angle on Jump to It. As usual, I've Johnny Ward and Emma Nagle here, and we're going to go through everything that happened in the last week, and I think it's going to be a very busy show. Lots of things to talk about. Johnny, Emma, welcome.
How are you getting on, Vinny?
Thanks,
I'm
Vincent.
good, thanks. Now, where do we start? There's so much to talk about, I suppose. Maybe the first one for me is the racecourse split that we've had with the media rights. So there was a big issue around that in the last week, where it's finally come out that five of the race courses, which include, they're all smaller tracks, Kilbeggan, Thurles, Limerick, Roscommon and Sligo, have decided not to accept the deal that was worked out between Race and TV, ultimately is where the pictures would end up, and a Horse Racing Ireland Media Rights Committee. So they're not happy with it. They've decided to go on their own. They're saying they can get more money themselves if they go with an offer they've got from ATR at the races and Sky TV, which is the alternative bidder in this whole thing. What you make of this, Johnny? This is a mess, isn't it?
It is, yeah, Vinny. I did a piece for the Currency, the online journal today. If anyone subscribes to that, it's on that or whatever. So I've been looking into it over the last few days. I suppose I spoke to four or five racecourse managers. None of them actually part of the UIR, which a few wags have suggested should be called the Provisional AIR, which I thought was quite good. Yeah, so I spoke to Paddy Dunnican, I suppose maybe Wednesday or Thursday, and I did ask for Paddy to send me on, one of the five, I suppose, racecourse managers from the UIR for a comment, but nobody was put forward and nobody was available. So I ended up having a slightly necessarily slanted version of the story in terms of the quotes I used. As much as I used quotes from, I thought, a very, very poorly written press release by UIR, which I didn't think did them any favours at all. I honestly think, a 12-year-old would write better than some of the stuff that they come out with in that press release. I didn't think it's shone well on them at all. In terms of the actual issue, I mean, my understanding is that now, obviously, the caveat here is I do freelance work for Race and TV, and I do mean this. This has nothing to do with my take on this. It's I spoke to people in England who would say there's nothing wrong with competition whatsoever, and if Sky Sports want to bring Irish races over, that's fine. But my understanding was that when Horse Racing Ireland was negotiating the deal for all the Irish meetings, that the difference between the two offers in terms of ARC and RMG was substantial. But these five racetracks have come together, and you could say some of the racetracks have sort of colourful histories in recent times, particularly Limerick, which has had a lot of issues with people coming and going. They've come together and decided that they don't get enough money for their race courses in terms of media rights. Now, the people I spoke to on the other end, including the likes of Owen Byrne and Tremor, even Emma Meehan at Down Royal, not massive tracks, particularly Tremor, they would argue that that's not the case. And I've heard time and time again that they've looked into it. And if anything, the bigger tracks are actually kind of compensating a bit for the smaller tracks. Now, I don't have the figures there, but they feel that they can go better on their own. But they're opening up a myriad of problems now, these tracks, Finny, because they have to do all the deals themselves. They have to do all the broadcasts themselves. They don't actually own the rights that are coming from the tracks. ARC would not have a good reputation in Britain at all in terms of prize money. One racecourse manager would say to me they're going to try and cut down on everything. And Ryan McGilligan, who's obviously head of the trainers organisation, his concern is to do with prize money, which I think may be right. And I suppose Dundalk, being linked with a move to ARC, that would have been huge, because Dundalk is very, very big in the betting landscape and in the Irish racing landscape, the most popular racetrack. So the fact that Dundalk stayed among the normal deal is significant. But I do not predict this to work out at all for the five tracks. I wouldn't trust the motivations of ARC per se, and I think that it's going to be very, very difficult for them, because I do think unity is strength in terms of the courses being together. And as much as the deals are, some tracks get more than others, I guess that's logical, really, because some tracks do more business than others. So best of luck to them, however it works out.
Yeah, the interesting thing for me is just reading between the lines of this new deal that was agreed with the Race and TV side of it, is that from what Suzanne Eade said in a press release during the week after a board meeting of HRI, which ratified that whole deal, she's basically saying here that this deal is betting linked, that the money that they earn from rights going forward for the next 5 years is linked to betting. and the betting turnover on the races they hold. Now, she says in it that there's safeguards built into this, that in 2024, they will earn the same money they did in 2022, even the smaller tracks. Everyone is ring fenced for that, and then it will gradually be a tiered system to bring in the actual betting related elements to it. And she said in it that virtually no racecourse will be worse off. Which means that some racecourse may be worse off, and I presume it would have been the 5 who've opted out, which are the smaller tracks, are the ones that are going to suffer betting related turnover. So I can kind of see where they're coming from, but I don't know. We don't have the full detail. That's the problem. So it's very difficult to make a proper guess on what is exactly happening here. You're literally only guessing at it. But it does look like it's betting related, which is definitely the way it should go. And I'm very much in favour of that, because the previous thing, it's very difficult to know how much is it, how much are your media rights worth. They're only really worth what it's worth to the broadcaster in terms of betting revenue or revenue related to betting that they're going to get back from that. So that's interesting. And I wonder, will there be a sea change going down the line where if you take it that a race meeting runs 7 races, the betting turnover is going to be relevant to the money they earn from it. So they would like those 7 races to be races that the punters would like to bet on, to be the first thing, which is not always the case, as we see with some of these small field stakes races at tracks where you get 3 and 4 runners and a 6-1 on chance. That's no good for anyone, is it? The same, both National Hunt and Flat, we see it on both sides of it, that we get these lopsided races that normal punters don't bet in. What do you think, Emma? Do you think it is a bit of a mess, but how much of a mess is it going to be? Could you see an issue here for these tracks as well? Because the ones who've broken away, Horse Racing Ireland, don't appear to be happy, and I can understand why. They put a lot of effort into signing this deal in the first place, and then 5 of the tracks opt out. Those 5 tracks depend hugely on Horse Racing Ireland for lots of things, including prize money, including the fixtures that are allocated to them, the type of races they get, and there's also when you look at it, when they want capital development, when they want to build a new stand or do something to the track or whatever, they need Horse Racing Ireland to be on board for that. So there's going to be a lot of issues going forward if they stay out of the camp, do you think?
Yeah, it was a really surprising development for me, to be honest. It's kind of something unheard of in Irish racing, that the rights will be split across different channels, but it's a very strange one. I think that the UIR have actually gone for a government intervention now, because I think the rules go that Horse Racing Ireland have to broker the deal between the race courses and the media company, and they obviously feel like they're not being treated fairly by HRI. I think that part of the argument was that they felt that HRI were taking maybe too much out of the media rights money. But it just looks like a massive mess at the moment. Like, as you said, without knowing all the facts, it's kind of hard to see how this will work out well for kind of everyone involved, to be honest. Like the 5 tracks involved, like they make up a fair enough chunk, I suppose, of the overall fixtures. I think there's 50, 55, 56 fixtures, I think, between the 5 tracks. I mean, like the likes of Thurles and Kilbeggan, like they're kind of staples of the winter and summer season. Limerick's a Grade 1 track, so it's going to be strange to see. I presume like the most likely outcome is that they will be on Sky Sports Racing from 2024 onwards, but yeah, it's not something that I predicted coming. It's a bit of a pity, really, to see the Irish racing split between 2 different channels. Like, you can probably make a case for and against both Racing TV and At the Races. I mean, probably the biggest argument against Racing TV, just as a spectator, I suppose, is the paywall, that it's kind of restricting the amount of people that watch racing. But at the same time, I think that the product that Racing TV offer is probably a lot superior than what was offered by At the Races. Like, I think kind of the major plus to Racing TV is the Racing TV Extra. Like, you can watch like literally any meeting, no matter how much racing is on a day. You can, let's say, tune into Kilbeggan on a Friday night, and there'll be constant analysis of all the races, and you get interviews from every owner, trainer, and jockey. So it's probably kind of hard to see why they felt that they would get a better deal elsewhere. And without knowing the figures, obviously, the kind of overall feeling is that the that the financial side of it offered by Racecourse Media Group was a lot better than the other deal put ahead. So yeah, it's a big mess, and how it's going to be sorted, it'll be very interesting to see. Yeah, it was a very, very shocking story, and I can't really see it going too well for the 5 racehorses, to be honest. Like as you mentioned, ARC don't have the greatest reputation in England, and you can't imagine that it's going to improve much just because they come to Ireland, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we'll see what happens there. Next one we want to talk about is Princess Zoe. That's an interesting one, isn't it? Emma, you were down in Tony Mullins's not too long ago. You said Princess Zoe wasn't... Was she out at the time, or was she there when you were there?
No, that's her there now.
There. That's her there. She was there, yeah.
No, she's there with Tony. Yeah.
And the owner, Paddy Keogh, has moved her. He's taken her out of the yard, and she's going to go to Paul Nolan, seemingly presuming all is well with her. Quite a controversial move, I would have thought, because Tony Mullins had done fantastic with that mare in particular, winning a Grade 1 in France and everything, and all the other victories, and it's been a huge story on social media the last 2 or 3 years. I'm sure he'd be gutted. Emma, what do you think?
Oh yeah, like it's not, I suppose, wasn't the biggest shock, because we saw on Twitter Paddy Keogh had a bit of an outburst after Cheltenham. To be honest, he's kind of airing a lot of dirty laundry online, which isn't. He's not coming out at the better side of it. He did an article with the Sun recently, and like the claims he was making were just, it just kind of seemed like ramblings, really, more so than probably trying to save face. He's probably trying to save face after taking the mare off Tony, but like, you'd have to feel so sorry for Tony. Like, when I was down there, you just kind of knew how much the mare meant to him, not even just as, you know, a superstar horse. Like, he just felt like he had a real connection to her as a friend. And Johnny did a lovely interview with him as well in Kilbeggan, and you know, his love for the horse just kind of comes through the whole time. And so it's sad to see her going. Like, I think Tony's point was that he didn't think she was a hurdler, and when I was down there, when was it, before Cheltenham anyway, I think around February time, he was saying like it wasn't his idea to go hurdling, it was the owner's idea, and he said he'd only keep her hurdling if she was going to be, you know, a Grade 1 kind of top class hurdler, which, you know, it didn't transpire in the end. She's not kind of that level, and I think after her last run, Danny's feedback to Tony was that she didn't want to run over hurdles anymore. And you know, if Danny Mullins is telling you that, I think you're going to have to listen. Like, fair enough, give her another go on the flat, but to keep persisting with her over hurdles when obviously it wasn't working out well for her, like, look, hopefully the best of luck to the mare in her new yard, but yeah, it's not something you'd like to see, because Tony had done a brilliant job with her, and to see kind of a horse like her leaving a small yard is never nice, really.
No, I agree. And the best of luck to her, whatever she ends up doing, because we're talking about sending her to stud at one stage as well, so maybe she'll end up there rather than back on the track. You'd never know at this stage. Johnny, we'll move on to another item, is Rachel Blackmore Kilbeggan. That caught a lot of interest the other day when she appeared to ride a finish with a circuit to go. Now, in fairness, she didn't exactly ride a finish. She didn't whip the horse or anything. She just pushed it out and she went from being in midfield with a circuit to go in Kilbeggan, and she moved up and she went to the front with about a furlong and a half to go with a circuit to go. And she pushed the horse out, and it went 6 or so lengths in front of the others. And then as they passed the winning post with the circuit to go, Rachel eased down, and she let the other horses catch up on her and pass her out, and she dropped back into 4th place. So the stewards inquired into it, and they weren't entirely convinced with the explanation that Rachel had given, but they didn't take any action against her. What did you make of it, Johnny?
Yeah, there's a nice segue to this now, because we spoke about Princess. So I just see on the Racing Post website that Honeysuckle has just been announced. She's scanned in foal to walk in the park, and it's all going well. And Honeysuckle obviously brings us to Rachel Blackmore. And I was at Kilbeggan, and I think James Griffin on the commentary referenced it at the time. I initially thought that she'd mistaken the winning post in the sense that she was riding to finish a circuit early. She wasn't flat out on the horse, but she started sort of pushing it out. And, the mistakes can definitely be made. I mean, it doesn't actually happen that often. Sometimes I'm surprised with the pressures that jockeys are under that it doesn't happen more often. But in any event, I mean, watch the video back for yourself, make up your own conclusion. But I was actually staggered with the outcome on the night with the stewards, and I spoke to the stewards at the racetrack. But in relation to the way it's all worked out, and Rachel has given her explanation of events, and you can have your own conclusion. But a senior racing official then obviously looked at it, and it has been referred on. So I would kind of respect the process in terms of the IHRB there, but I don't know. You nearly need to get Rachel on to explain it properly, because for me, I'm fairly clear in my mind what happened anyway.
And that would be that she mistook the winning post, I presume. Yeah,
that's my belief. But
yeah.
then you're saying Rachel is effectively saying that something else happened. So maybe she's right, but I just can't really accept that, having looked at the race.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll move on. Another controversial one again. Charles Byrnes, Garrod Brooder, horse called Elat in Gowran Park, finished fourth in a mile 6 handicap, and the stewards weren't happy. They judged that Charles and Garrod didn't run the horse on its merits, and Charles got fined $6,000. The horse is banned for 90 days, and Garrod Brooder, 21 days he gets banned for. What do you make of that, Johnny? Did you see the race first off?
I saw the race, yeah. I actually can't really tell apart now Elat's last two runs because they were so similar. Basically the same course and trip at Gowran, sent off similarly weak, 3-1, 130 price in the market. Elat is a bizarre one, Vinny, because he's been owned by a selection of characters, but he's often been gambled on when you wouldn't associate the owner at all with being a gambling operator. I mean, the owner here is Charles Byrnes, and the horse has been weak in the betting, but the horse has been so eye-catching. I really don't know what's going on. And the first day, we had a bizarre situation in Gowran when initially the horse was post-race normal, but subsequently, on another investigation or explanation, that the gelding was found to be coughing. I spoke to one of the Turf Club stewards the day after, I can't remember where we were racing, and he explained how this all happened, and it was a bit of an out for connections, obviously. But for the same thing, almost the same thing to happen again, I thought was unbelievable, really, at Gowran the next day, again weak in the betting. But in fairness to the stewards, I think they did the right thing here. This horse, when the horse was trained by Noel Kelly and owned by Shauna Kelly, who I presume is some connections of Noel, was often well backed as well. So something about Elat that encourages people to either back it or not back it, as the case may be. But in fairness to the IHRB, it did kind of go down the route of some punishment on the 10th of May. But we'll talk about Sylvester de Sousa, Vinny. I mean, I think there should be far greater punishments than the ones that are meted out for stuff like this, because it looks terrible. I thought it looked shocking on both occasions, to be honest. And it's not good. It's just not good.
Yeah, well, moving on. Sylvester de Sousa, 3-time champion jockey in Great Britain. He goes to Hong Kong. He's earning a fortune in Hong Kong. And then he goes, and some mate of his, Wagner Borges, another jockey out there, wants to back a horse in a race, a minor little handicap in Happy Valley on the 26th of April. And he asks Sylvester, and Sylvester somehow facilitates him to have a bet on the horse. And the two of them are in hot water over it. Sylvester got banned for 10 months, and Wagner Borges got banned for a year. He got 12 months. What do you make of that, Emma? It seems like, according to the authorities in Hong Kong, it's a first ever offence for either of them regarding betting or anything else. So it's a hell of a suspension, isn't it? And the amount of money that will cost both of them in Hong Kong is just telephone numbers.
Yeah, it's kind of a bizarre one, really. Kind of for a number of reasons. Firstly, like, Sylvester Sousa isn't the kind of character I would have suspected of doing any kind of wrongdoing in racing. He kind of comes across as a very straight cut kind of guy, and then on top of that, doing it in Hong Kong, it's one thing to do it in the UK, but to do it in Hong Kong, where they take all of these rules so seriously, I don't think you're going to get away with anything like that in Hong Kong. And on top of that, again, the amount of money that they're earning in Hong Kong for riding there, to break the rules, knowing the consequences, it's just really, really surprising for so many reasons. And facilitating a bet, he got 10 months. I'm not exactly sure what he did to facilitate the bet, but again, the punishment for 10 months compared to his fellow jockey who got 12 months for actually placing the bet seems very, very harsh. Obviously, look, it's different jurisdictions over there, but yeah, it was really, really surprising one. I kind of looking forward to seeing more details coming out about it, because it's just, yeah, shocking case. And Sylvester Sousa, again, not the guy I would have expected to be kind of wrapped up in this kind of thing. How serious it actually transpires to be will be interesting. I'm not sure how much details the Jockey Club in Hong Kong are going to release on it, but it's kind of when you'll be watching with a bit of interest when more comes out.
Yeah, well, Sylvester has appealed the sanction he got. Both jockeys admitted that they were basically put their hands up to it and said, yeah, we did it, but the suspensions is the issue, I suppose, the length of the bans. A thing here is jockeys are not allowed bet in any jurisdiction. Trainers are, owners are, lots of other people are, but the jockeys aren't. What do you make of this, Johnny? Like, we've a jockey here, Wagner Borges, goes and wants to back the horse he's riding, and does as such. So obviously, you're on a trier if the jockey's backed it. Shouldn't they be allowed bet? Should we not know if they're having a bet? I'd love to know. If I was having a bet in Killarney now this evening, I'd like to know that the jockey was also backing the same horse, to give you a little bit of extra confidence, wouldn't it?
I've worked with Sylvester doing bits for Star Sports, and he's an absolute gent. So when I saw this headline, I was like, God, what's he gotten up to here? And then you read the story and you're like, I mean, compared to what happens over here, I'm with you, Vinny. Like, if I met a jockey at Killarney tonight, I'm in Sligo tomorrow, and he or she said to me, would you mind having 100 quid on my mount for me in the 7th race? I'm probably committing some sort of, I probably shouldn't do that, but of course I do it. Like, why would I have an issue with that? And jockeys do bet. Obviously, they bet through somebody else, or they bet through their mates. And if a jockey wants to back his mount in the last race or in any race, as long as he's not backing against himself or herself, I can't see an issue with that whatsoever. And I presume the authorities more or less throw a blind eye to it if they know what's going on, and rightly, because it's a nonsense.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, we'll move on to some other things. One interesting thing I see in the news is in Australia, a lot of the senior riders out there are giving out about the back protectors. Seemingly there's been an increase in the number of spinal injuries with falls in Australia in recent years. And a lot of the senior jockeys are saying it's to do with the back protector because they think it's too stiff and it's not giving enough flexibility in a fall. It's more designed, in their opinion, for if you get stood on by a horse, that it'll protect you from that rather than giving you the flexibility to roll away in a fall and not get serious injuries. A lot of the jockeys are saying that the Australian jockeys are saying there's a Japanese style back protector, which those who've ridden out there say is much more suitable when they go to Japan and they ride there. They think this is the perfect one, but it's not licensed in Australia. The ones that are licensed in Australia are a number of designs, which I'm not certain of them, but I know that one of them is a European standard design, which I presume is similar to what's used in Ireland and the UK. What do you make of this, Emma? Could the back protector be a problem for them? I presume all the safety checks have been done on this and rigorous testing before they ever came to be worn by both jockeys and work riders and everything else. And I presume when you're riding work, you have to wear your back protector too.
Yeah, I know anyone riding out in the yard has to be wearing a back protector if you get an IHRB inspection. I think there was one recently, I can't remember what trainer it was, but they were fined a couple of €100 a night because there was a few riders not wearing the back protector. So yeah, it's anywhere you go schooling, or you don't have to be just a jockey to be wearing one. Anyone going schooling horses or galloping, you won't be allowed anywhere without a back protector, really, more or less. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure what the back protector they use in Australia is, but we use the race safe ones here. They did change them. I'm not exactly sure when it was. It was probably 7 or 8 years ago, if I was going to guess. And the new design was kind of noticeably, as soon as you put it on, it was an awful lot stiffer than the old one. Obviously, there's some kind of science behind why they changed it. If the jockeys are feeling like it's not working, though, I have ridden in both of them, and the older one was awful lot more comfortable. I think that's the old one in the picture. The new one has kind of longer strips down the back. It's kind of hard to explain it here, but it's just a lot more flexible. You can move a lot more in it. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But obviously, as you said, the science must be there behind the change of design. I'd like to hear the opinions of maybe some jockeys here to see what they thought, because I've ridden very, very little in races, but I did notice when I had to change it, it was more uncomfortable. You just kind of felt more stiff. And I can see maybe why they thought it might impact their ability to kind of roll away from falls and stuff. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I'd like to hear kind of more from jockeys here who obviously have ridden in both, and see what their thoughts on it was.
Yeah, it would be interesting. Move on to one other thing now. Well, a couple of things. France would be the big thing this weekend. Last weekend we had the French Guineas, French 1,000, 2,000 Guineas on Sunday. Aidan O'Brien had no joy there with his Ballydoyle runners. Johnny, that's a similar story that he had in Newmarket as well. Not a great season so far.
No, it was interesting just reading the David Walsh in the Sunday Times yesterday, Vinny. He did a lovely piece with Frankel's, the guy who looks after Frankel at the stud, and he was making the point that it's kind of a 50-50 chance as to whether Coolmore would have access to Frankel because of a kind of effectively sharing the 10, I think it was 10 folds that Khaled Abdullah had, and it was 50-50 whether Khaled Abdullah or Coolmore would have gotten Frankel. The long story short is that with the passing of Galileo, whose kind of influence has been on the wane a little bit in recent years, it just leaves Coolmore effectively without a superstar stallion. And now you see Frankel winning the Guineas, Frankel having I think the favourite for the Derby now as well. Augusta Rodin would be second favourite, but there's a lot of kind of reliance on him now. And the two horses that ran in France over the weekend in the big races, one by Dubawi, one by Frankel for Ballydoyle, neither of which they have much access to, both well beaten. And we saw the Guineas really was a bit of a complete flop on both days. Chester didn't go too badly for Aidan, but you are seeing a changing of the guard here, Vinny. I don't think it's been spoken about that much, that Coolmore has put a lot of faith in, say, Wooden Bassett and No Nay Never, and it has all these Galileo bred mares that have to go down another line and go with a stallion that's the best available, or the best they have available. But No Nay Never hasn't had a classic winner yet off the top of my head. It's very early days with Wooden Bassett, but the Galileo influence is effectively on the wane. And what you see now is Willie Mullins has almost in a few years really started to dominate National Hunt. But on the flat side of things, despite all the money involved, I really think Aidan's dominance is definitely been massively challenged by not only his two sons, but also some of the other big trainers. And it was a very disappointing. It doesn't look to be a great year at all for Ballydoyle this year, and Aidan's Classic Hall to me is not going to be high at all this year.
Okay, now we move on. National Hunt this weekend. We've got Auteuil in France. We've got the French champion hurdle on Saturday, and there's some lineup of entries at this stage. Particularly Hewick is the one of most interest, I think, for those of us who follow that horse. With Shark Hanlon, which I see on the French Gallop site, they have Shark Hanlon's name down as D.D. Hanlon. I don't know where they got that from, but I'm sure they'll explain at some point. And then other ones in it are Kilcroot, Flooring Porter, Asterian Phalange, Classical Dream, and Emmett Mullins' Farinilli. It looks like some lineup. It's going to be a great race. What would you make of it, Emma? Do you think Hewitt can do it over hurdles in France?
Shark seems quite confident about it anyway. He sounds as bullish as ever. It's a race really likes to target. I'm sure he's won it the 1,000 stars with it a couple of times, and been in Asia maybe a couple more. But yeah, looks like some lineup. Nice kind of hurdle race to see this time of the year. We're kind of well into the flat season here, so. Yeah, no, it'll be a great race. I'd love to see Hewitt do it. I'm not sure, is Jordan Gainford back, or will Rachel be getting the ride?
No, it'll be Rachel according to Shark. It's Rachel will ride. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it'll be a good spectacle anyway. I'm sure the French will get a good kick out of Shark celebrations if he does manage to do it.
Yeah, and Willie Mullins has obviously got a battalion going there. He won with Scaramanga in the States, a grade 1, the Iroquois hurdle on Saturday evening. Paul Townend rode it and then comes back and rides a double in Killarney yesterday. Some outfit, Johnny, as you mentioned there about his dominance in National Hunt. Like it's to say, his prize money in Ireland last year in National Hunt racing alone was nearly double what Aidan O'Brien had in the flat. So it shows how dominant he really is. What do you make of that? The French stuff at the weekend coming up. Can you see Willie dominating again, Johnny?
Yeah, I kind of forgotten about this. I have to say now my mind has gone off jumps racing, and then I spoke to Gavin Cromwell at Kilbeggan, and he was like, well, we're going over here with Florian Portra, and then he started listening to the Irish horses. So it's going to be a massive Irish spectacle, and I suppose the challenge for trainers is to keep National Hunt horses on the go into the middle of May. That's not straightforward. But I suppose we have a little bit of a changing of the way horses are campaigning now. The win in America, I mean, it was interesting that if you look at the race itself, I think all but one of the first 7 home were Irish bred or whatever, but good prize money. And, I think Willie said it was actually, I think he said it was like one of his most enjoyable wins in his career, which is quite astounding, really. And no stopping the man. And I think, you saw with Paul Byrne as well, kind of aiming some horses. Gordon has done as well, aiming more horses at America. There are big costs involved in bringing horses over there, but I mean, the riches are great because the standard is obviously way, way less than you get here. And the other thing, Vinny, is with the way the climate is going, I think the flatter bred horses, or the horses that are more kind of geared towards nice ground, spring ground or summer ground, their options are open. It's funny, I was kind of asked to have a leg in a horse there recently, and it was a flat horse that kind of needs soft ground, and it's actually a worry now because you really aren't that confident of getting soft ground for that much of the year now, and it's kind of slightly changing the National Hunt picture, I think, as well. But fair play to Willie. It's just he seems to be at the peak of his powers at whatever age he is at this stage of his life.
66, I think he is now, so getting the free travel. Yeah, not that he needs it, but there you go. Right, we'll finish up with a horse to follow. Did you see something from during the week? Start off with you, Emma. Anything that you think we should keep an eye on going forward?
Yeah, we'll stick with the jump racing. I think Paul O'Flynn had a really impressive bumper winner in Killarney last night. He's by French Navy, the sire of Marine Nationale. There isn't too many of those around, but just really eye-catching the way he won. He looked to run away with Feeney Maguire passing the post the first time, and the fact he was able to stay in front was really, really impressive for me. As well, trying to pull him up, he seemed to go an awful long way, and Finney was having, if he be a strong rider, he was having a bit of trouble trying to stop him at the end. So yeah, I'd imagine he's probably for sale now, and wherever he goes, I think he'll probably want to follow for the jump season next year.
Yeah, there was good money for a newcomer of Joseph O'Brien's in that one, I think, and finished about 5th or 6th. But the winner was impressive. It was all over early in the straight. Johnny, what do you think? Have you got one for me?
I could give one on the jumps, which would be You Ought to Know. It was a really, really good bumper winner, Kilbeggan, the other night. I mean, it was a Kilbeggan bumper, and honestly looked like a bumper that you could run in Leopardstown at Christmas with the form and the hype of the horse in the race. The initial favourite, Cork Park, was a 400 grand purchase out of a point, 400 grand sterling, I think. You Ought to Know beat Hollow out of a half-sister to Pont Alexander for Luke McMahon. Just looks really promising. But I'll give one maybe a bit less obvious. Narlita, a horse I'm very interested in. I think she could make a lovely broodmare. She's with Harry Rogers. Harry's doing great. Harry's had to battle hard, I think, losing his wife Mary, who's such a big part of that operation, but he's keeping the show on the road. He's in good form lately. I was talking to him lately. And Narlita was second to go at Gowran. She's a very she's not straightforward despite her. She's a middle distance German pedigree, but she's very hard on herself. Gavin Cromwell had her, Johnny Murta had her, and I think Gordon Elliott had her, and she was reportedly very hyper, but she's been trained out of a field now, and she's quite chilled out, and she was a really, really unfortunate second at Gowran, well backed the same day as Elat ran, actually, and I think she's going to have a good summer. She does like a bit of an ease in the ground, though.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see Harry have a few winners now during the summer months. He's a really nice guy. For me, I was watching Killarney yesterday. I have to say one thing about Killarney yesterday. They were using a truck camera in the infield for a lot of the pictures, and they were stunning. I'd normally be against that, where you're using different camera angles. It's very hard to follow a race when they keep moving the the camera positions on you. But it worked a treat for Killarney. My God, the scenery was stunning in it. Now, I was more watching scenery than horses, I have to say, for a lot of it, but it really was fabulous. But one that really caught my eye was a mare in a mare's novice chase called Must Be Dreaming, trained by Garrett Ahern. He hasn't had a winner in a long time. I think this is the last winner he had was this same mare. JJ Slevin rode the horse, went out in front and jumped like a buck and didn't stay. It was 2 miles 4. The previous start it had over fences was 2 miles 6. Similar thing. It dropped out in the closing stages. It might have still been a contender in the race in Killarney, but it was running out of puff when it made a mistake at the second last, was still in front, then made another mistake at the last and dropped out completely. But I think back to 2 miles, if you see that over 2 miles in the next 6 or 8 weeks, I think it'd be well worth having a little punt on that in a similar low-grade novice chase. Now, that's it for the week. Thanks for all your contributions and thanks for watching. And we shall be back next week. So make sure to subscribe to our channel, get notifications of when we have our next video out, and hopefully you'll join us again next week. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.